Hello and welcome to Lawyerish, a podcast for the people. Lawyerish is a safe space to learn, grow, inspire, and be inspired. So come along and ride on this fantastic voyage. Let us go be great together. I'm Brandon J. Wallace, Esquire, and I'll be your captain. It's a whole vibe, and I sure am glad you're here. Lawyerish is brought to you by Apex, where aptitude meets excellence, and powered by the Green Law Firm, your one-stop shop for everything real estate in Tennessee and Mississippi. Our voyage vibe today is brought to us by Kurt Smith. This is Prodigal Son. I like this vibe. It's real chill, and I'm feeling it today. We got an exciting show today, guys. I'm excited to be back in the chair and back in the mix with you. I've got some exciting guests. We got some exciting things to talk about, and I'm just bubbling over with excitement. All right, let's get into it. It's time for Duly Noted. All right, friends, it's time for Duly Noted. Today, I really have to talk about something that is really getting under my skin. I really don't want to talk about it necessarily, and I think even by the time this episode airs, it may be a moot point, but maybe not. I've got to talk about Bill Barr and the MAGA Republicans of our country. Bill Barr, if you don't know, he is the former Attorney General of the United States of America, the top law enforcement officer. He was the top law enforcement officer under President Trump. And, you know, my issue with him is I heard him over the weekend. He did an interview, I believe, on Friday on CNN, where he said, and he has been pretty outspoken about the former president, about his actions around January 6th and how he broke the law, he felt like, and how he basically tried to overturn a free and fair election. He is one of the main people who told Mr. Trump and others that the election was fair, that there was no, that they exhausted all their investigations, that they went to court, they challenged things, and they didn't find any widespread fraud in the election, that it was a free and fair election. He repeatedly said that both under oath and in private with the president, the former president. And over the weekend, just on Friday, he was on CNN and he said, despite that, and despite the former president, I think, calling him lazy and lethargic and corrupt and all these other names, like literally name calling him, despite the president calling him names, and despite the president, former president, attempting to overturn an election, Mr. Barr on live TV said that he would still vote for him, that he thought a second term of President Trump would be better for the country than a second term of President Biden. And I just don't get that. Mr. Barr is an attorney. And again, the top, formerly the top law enforcement officer in the country. And he admittedly and outspokenly said that Mr. Trump broke the law repeatedly, even said that Mr. Trump at some point, maybe several times throughout his tenure, said that he wanted to kill people. And he laughed it off. And I just don't get it. I think what I'm learning about our country is that there are a lot of people, a lot of citizens in this country who really don't honor the idea, the true idea of America. And it's troubling. How can you say you love America and you don't believe in checks and balances? How can you say you love America and you trash our justice system? And it's true. Don't get me wrong, right? Our justice system is imperfect and there are things that need to be corrected about it. But at the end of the day, a jury of your peers are the ones that make the decisions, and prosecutors who are elected by the people are the ones who bring the charges. And it's troubling to me that someone like Mr. Barr, of his supposed stature, would, despite being called names and being belittled and dogged out in front of the world, still turn around and endorse the man who he has admitted broken the law many times and tried to overturn a free and fair election. I just don't get it. That ought to be a deal breaker, and everybody knows it. But I guess one thing that we do know for sure is absolute power corrupts absolutely. And some folks will do anything and everything to keep it. That's just my 2 cents, though. Who am I? That's duly noted, friends. We'll be right back. All right, friends, we are back, and it's now time for our lawyer segment. I'm super excited to welcome my friend and my colleague, Miss Jessica Ornsby. Jessica is a DC native, and she's serving her community. She's got her own practice at Ornsby Dozier LLP. She advises clients on family law, landlord-tenant, business and contract matters. I know her personally through some colleagues, and I often see her on social media, particularly Instagram, where you can see her discussing real life matters in family law. She's really great. I'm excited to chat with her today. Jessica, welcome to Lawyerish.
Hey there, how are you?
Doing so wonderful, and thank you so much for making time to be with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's get into it. So, you are a family law practitioner, among other things, but one of your big primary focuses is family law. You talk about, how parents can work together for the good of the children, and how maybe you can avoid court by parental agreements and all these things. You've got one of the most valuable, I think, Instagram pages that the legally valuable, right? Instagram pages out there, and so we're hoping to model after you a little bit. But we just love to see that. So, can you just talk to us a little bit about what you do, about how you got into family law itself, because you've got actually quite a interesting legal background.
Yeah, so I love family law. Let me start by saying I love family law, and I've been doing it for so long because of the fact that I know it touches pretty much everyone's life. Most of us know someone who's either gotten a divorce, has a child with someone that they aren't with, maybe dealing with child support issues. And so it's just a very relatable practice. Even if you aren't dealing with those particular issues, maybe you know someone who's been adopted or is getting married, because that's a part of family law as well. And so before I got into family law, I was working in tax, and I was working in a big firm, but I was also doing some pro bono work, and the pro bono work was family. And what I realized is that, this is an opportunity for me to work with people directly and to really make a direct impact in people's lives and with their family units, especially within the African American community, because broken families, unfortunately, is pretty prevalent in our community. But having them go from being broken families to just separate households that are co-parenting, working together healthily in a healthy way was really important to me.
Yeah, and so how did you transition from sort of tax to family? What was that like?
I was working at this firm that required us to do pro bono. And at the time, the partners, they just didn't really have the time to work on those cases. So when I was doing, especially this one particular pro bono case, I just kind of fell in love with the process and with my clients, honestly. And it really tugged at my heartstrings. And when I started looking at my career long term, I said, well, I can work with these big companies who really don't know me from Adam at the end of the day, or I can work in a practice where the clients know me and get to know me and really are trusting me with their cases.
Yeah, and you really are dealing with some major things, right? Everything from custody battles to adoptions to you are doing landlord tenant too, but we're also, dealing with, I think it was custody or child support is what I was trying to get at when I was stumbling through. So you're dealing with some major life-changing issues. What would you say has been your sort of most shining moment? And then what would you say has been maybe your most teachable moment, if you will?
I think I have teachable moments like every day. Being honest. So one of my favorite moments was I helped with an international adoption, and the family was from Nigeria. And they were so anxious about even being a part of the justice system and being in court and being able to work with them where they didn't feel so nervous and they felt confident going into the court building because they had representation. And then it was an adoption. So it was just really nice to see a family be structured in an alternative way, and in a positive way as well. So that was one of my favorite moments, and it was one that kind of solidified my desire to stay in family law.
Hmm. Hmm. And so you've got your own practice, and what is that like? What's the sort of day in the life of the principal at a law firm, at your own law firm?
Yeah, I have my own practice, and day to day, that's why I said teachable moments. If you are practicing law, you are learning how to work through the system. But then when you're practicing law as a business owner, you're also learning how to run a business, and one that's highly regulated and very scrutinized. So I started off as a solo, and then this will be our third year merged, me and my law partner. And it has been a true learning experience with a significant learning curve. I spend a portion of each day doing something related to marketing, whether it's on social media or something else, a portion of the day looking at our finances, a portion of the day managing our staff, and then the rest of the day doing client work.
And of course, I imagine that could change any day, right? Because some days you're in court, and other days I think we were talking just before, you got depositions you're preparing for and all the like. So you can be all over the place like most attorneys. Tell me, where did you go to law school, and how did you decide you actually wanted to be a lawyer in the first place?
So I went to Georgetown, go Hoyas, and
Big
I
money out of
oh
Georgetown.
man. I didn't know I wanted to be an attorney. I didn't know any attorneys growing up. I didn't even really know what it meant to be an attorney. I started my legal career, or the interest in a legal career, as a music student in undergrad. I was studying music, and I thought I was going to be a music professor. And that was really where my passion was, or at least where I thought it was at the time.
Really?
So I was spending all this time in practice rooms playing piano, studying classical voice. And then I had like a series of events that made me think maybe I should do something else. And the things that I was having to do, the questions I was answering on behalf of friends and family, I remember I just Googled, like, what is a lawyer or something? What do they do?
Wow.
And I took all these kind of like personality tests and things and said, oh, I think maybe I'm supposed to be an attorney. So I prayed on it, and in my prayer, I was very specific. I said, God, if I get into Georgetown University, I will go to law school. And I got into Georgetown because I said, okay, if I get a scholarship, I'll go for real. And so all these things thankfully worked out, and now here I am.
So did you go to Georgetown undergrad and law school?
No, I went to undergrad in Tennessee. I went
Okay.
to University of Tennessee, Chattanooga.
Okay, UT Chat. I'm actually from Memphis. I'm taping from
Yep.
Memphis as we speak. I think that explains why we have some mutual friends that I've seen
Absolutely.
you online as well.
A lot of
So
Memphis people end up at UTC. It's very interesting.
yeah, at UTC and in DC. If you
Yes.
think about it, that's a very interesting correlation there. So I'm so shocked that you were at one point a music major. I've never heard you sing or play piano. I'm not going to ask you to do that today, but I'm going to put that on your radar. I want some proof of that. We need some footage of this on your Instagram.
I have some somewhere.
Okay. 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 Well, good. I'm so excited to chat with you. I want to know, just to pull from your wisdom a little bit. I think we have a lot of people who are law students, young lawyers, and maybe even lawyers who are maybe looking at changing their career paths or changing their practice area. And I'd like to know from you what counsel you may have given to your younger self, right? Understanding where you are now and what you've learned over the years that you've been practicing. What might you have told your younger self, or to someone else who is there now and looking to be where you are?
This is such a good question and I think that the advice I would give myself probably still wouldn't even stick, knowing
Mm,
what I know. And the advice would be that as long as you're doing your best, it'll work out. I spent a lot of time and energy stressing, like making myself sick, stressed over grades and test scores and, different things that ultimately were out of my control as long as, I showed up and did my best. But we put a lot of pressure on ourselves when you're high achieving to be high achieving. And in this field that is so competitive, it's easy to just do this comparison, especially when you're in law school and you're getting graded on the curve and everything. Just do your best, and that's it. You just got to leave it at the table, and know that it'll work out.
yeah, I think that's good counsel, and that's true both in law school and in real life, right? And in the
Exactly.
courtroom and everywhere, right? That is, you got to show up and give your all and let the chips fall where they may, right? I think this will be one of our sort of motivational moments at one point, but for now, I'm drawn to Glorilla, who said at the end of the day's got to end, right? And so,
Absolutely.
and that's the truth, right? It's gonna end, right? And so you just have to give your all and make the best of it. I think that's great counsel. Can you share with the people where they can find you, how they can reach out to you? Where can we get your great content and reach out to you if we need counsel?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram at DMV_lawyer. If you want a little bit more, less polished content, it's on TikTok, same DMV_lawyer. And you can find my law firm at odlawllp.com.
Thank you so much for making time to be here. I know how busy your schedule is. You've got high demands. You're a mom. You're a law partner. You're a lawyer and advocate. You're a social media budding star, and you've made time for this little old podcast. And we really appreciate you making the time for us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, friends, hang tight. We'll be right back with the Wellness Check. All right, friends, we are back, and it's now time for your wellness check. It's a brief one today. Don't forget your roots. As we go through this life, we will grow inevitably. We will grow. We should be growing. We should be learning. We should be striving to be our very best each and every day. But it's important for us, no matter how much we grow, no matter how much we do, no matter how much we achieve, it's so important for us to don't forget our roots. And that doesn't mean, some people don't forget where you came from. They give you that kind of attitude. That doesn't mean that you can't grow and that you don't, that you have to be glued to who you were. But it does mean never forget that child that wanted to be a lawyer, that wanted to be a boxer, that wanted to be a producer or a movie director. Don't forget those times. Don't forget what the things that rooted and grounded you and made us who we are today. So don't forget your roots, and let's make sure that in our daily walks that we are forever rooted in the things that make us strong and that feed us. So that's your wellness check today, folks. Don't forget your roots. We'll be right back with the Apex Highlight. All right, friends, we are back, and it's now time for our Apex Highlight. I am super excited to welcome my friend, my former school classmate, Mr. Britton Hardin. He is a graduate of Howard University, the Howard University, the School of Communications. He is now the head of boxing operations at Overtime Boxing. I'm super excited to chat with him. They are revolutionizing the sport. This guy is major. He's a major guy, major player in the world of boxing, in the world of sports in general. And he's made some time to be with us today, and we're excited to chat with him. Britton, thank you so much for being on the show. Welcome to Lawyerish.
What's going on, V? I can get used to that kind of introduction, but
well, let me know. I can do that. Let me know. I can pull up anytime you want, man, for sure. Congratulations to you. You've got so much going on. You actually recently engaged. You've got this boxing thing going on. So congrats on all the wonderful things that you got going on. I can't wait to see where you're going. You've got much more to come. But today, I kind of want to focus on this boxing thing. I'm elated to talk about what Overtime Boxing is doing. You guys are revolutionizing the sport. Some exciting things that you're doing, right? You've got this. You got a smaller ring. You've got. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the gloves are a little bit smaller too, right? Is that right?
No. The fighters participate in regulated.
Okay, so the regulated gloves. Okay, I don't know why. Maybe I read that wrong, but. So you've got a smaller ring, but really the most exciting thing I got to say is the knockout bonus that you got. So I've been telling people about this. I've been talking about this interview for like a week now. So I'm terribly excited about it. You guys, I mean, I've been watching the fights. If the knockout bonus is this, for those of you who do not know, right? If a fighter scores a knockout, you guys give them $1 million. Is that right? It's $1 million in cash?
No, it's not $1 million.
I'm worse than Shannon Sharp.
Listen, it's not quite $1 million, but we're not going to disclose the number.
You won't say how much.
You don't want anybody to get in trouble with the IRS or with their tax.
Okay, fair enough. I'll say this: what we see on the television is you bringing in a bag of money. All right, we won't say how much it is, but we see on the television if there's a knockout, a bag of money is presented to the fighter. And it's almost like sometimes they don't even know they're going to get it. Maybe they're caught up in the moment or what. But so I guess let me hold on. Let me calm down. I'm excited. Okay. So let's start from the beginning. How did you come up with this concept? Where did this come from? How did we get here with Overtime Boxing?
So a little bit about me and my background. Obviously know, we met at Howard University, but I've been a lifelong boxing fan. Mom would never let me participate in the sport. She said she did me a favor. So I had, really the only real path that I knew that I could take was in the representation field. But before I fully gave up on my idea, my goal of being a professional fighter, I joined the gyms, and I was at the Real Deal boxing gyms with the fighters, training with them. Obviously had those ambitions of being a fighter while at the same time working at William Morris Endeavor, learning how to read contracts and represent fighters and things of that nature. And I think it just reached this inflection point in my career where I knew that I was too invested on the corporate side and I wasn't going to be able to be like an actual prize fighter, but that I also presented a lot of value because the coaches would ask me to review the contracts. And so these fighters already trusted me. I looked like a lot of those guys. I was going through the training regimen that they were going through, except for I knew how to do something that their coaches didn't know how to do, which was read the contract. So I presented a lot of value, and that roster of fighters became my roster of fighters. Like these people who I would call my teammates and people that I would train with became fighters that I represented. And so I quickly developed understanding and acumen of how to, read a boxing contract, decipher that, how to disseminate that information to the fighter and his family or his team in a way that was palatable so that they could understand it. And, I eventually ended up leaving the entertainment space, going full-fledged into boxing management, as an entrepreneur. And my experience with promoters just wasn't very high level. It wasn't elevated. It wasn't sexy. It wasn't something that I was proud to say, hey, I'm making a check off of these fighters, but I can't help them get substantial promotional contracts, or the way that the promoters treat us is just like dirt poor. So, I had ambitions on becoming a boxing promoter. And it's not like you can go and work at a talent agency in the boxing division, right? Like, you can do that in football, you can do that in baseball or basketball, but you can't do that in boxing. So all the information that I was retaining, I was kind of piecing together for myself. And I knew that this ambition to represent and protect the fighters was going to outgrow my managerial practice. So the long story short, there is a friend of mine who was wildly obsessed with basketball. He asked me if I ever heard of this company, Overtime. And at the time I hadn't, because, candidly, I'm not like a big sports fan outside of boxing. And so he asked me to do some research on this company. And when I discovered what Overtime was, and I understood their trajectory and how they had positively impacted, basketball, collegiate and high school level basketball, I became obsessed, because I recognized that if this entity chose to focus on boxing, it could become a mega power in the sport because of how they elevate the fighter stories, how they are, fair to the athletes, how they're pro athlete, and how the next wave or the next generation had already kind of turned that corner on consuming content. I was like, oh man, if I can get on their radar, I know that I can shake something up. I can do some damage. And the same kind of like materials that I was pitching to VCs and talent agencies on going the boxing route, I pitched to Overtime. And I met my now business partner, call it 2 years ago. And he and I just saw the same vision. We saw that the low level of sophistication in the sport, how the fighter to the trajectory become the next Floyd Mayweather was becoming convoluted and very difficult. The fighters were being treated very poorly, and that is the premier asset in the sport. And we put our minds together on how to change the sport, man. And as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're doing is so impressive. It's exciting. I think what we see both in the ring and on the social media is it's reinvigorating the sport in many ways, and I think that's certainly to be commended. I didn't really have any fights. I boxed for some time before and during law school. I think boxing got me through law school, because sometimes you just need to punch things. And so I was training under a coach, and Coach Russell, God rest his soul, he passed away several years ago. But he was an Olympic boxer and really fueled my love for the sport, which is one of the reasons why I'm so excited to see it, sort of being revolutionized in the way that it is. How would you say you have found such success, or would you call it a success? And how do you think you were able to translate it into the successful venture that it is?
Yeah, I wake up every day and I pinch myself, because I'm doing exactly what I sought out to do. I wrote myself a letter maybe in 2015 of what I wanted my life to kind of look like. And a large part of that is what we do, right? The work that we do, what we choose to commit ourselves to. So when you ask me if I'm successful, the answer is 100% yes, because I'm walking the path that I chose and created for myself. And I know that not everybody has that luxury. Not everyone has that privilege. I understand I'm in a very privileged position, but I also balance that with there's been years and years and years of dedication and hard work and grinding and, just kind of preparing myself for this. So am I successful? Absolutely.
And so, how do you think you were able to accomplish that? What do you think? Would you say was maybe there's not one thing, but what would you say is the main one thing that you would say kind of tip the scales, or kind of help put you where you are today?
Passion.
Yeah.
Passion. Yeah, passion. And I could relate it to a lot of things, right? Like, obviously God, but then there's, relentless hard work, and there's dedication. There's luck in there. But I think that I just had this God-given passion and desire to do exactly what I'm doing. So even when it got really hard and I was, not financially well off, I always came back to this, even when there were other opportunities that presented themselves that may have been more lucrative. I always circle back to this. So I would say just like my passion and desire to do this thing and to make an impact on this industry.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly because I think one of the things I was going to say about you is you have this, you are like the poster child for turning passion to profit, right? This is just something you've just been doing for a long time. I've seen you, again, I like to box myself. So I've seen you. You're one of the people I would be looking to, your videos and things like that. And you somehow turned something that is fun and engaging, and now you turned it into something that's profitable and really changing the game of it itself. So I just think it's incredible. I think you're spot on when you say the passion, because you've done that in a way that I think is a model for most of us to be able to look and see. Okay,
Wow.
you can find a way to turn your passion into profit, and that's how it's done. That way it doesn't feel like work. Would you agree with that?
That is very, very touching and very meaningful to come from you. We're obviously classmates, and I admire you as well for your intellect and how you've been able to chart a path for yourself. But that means a lot, to hear that. Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, I also really enjoy speaking to younger adults and younger professionals, because I do like for them to understand that the thing that they really want to do, they can do. The thing that their heart won't allow them to give up on, they can conquer. That vision that was planted in their brain, they can actually go actualize that. And the reason why it's on them, it's on their heart, it's on their brain, it's weighing heavy on their conscience, is because they're the person that's supposed to walk out that assignment. I love delivering that message. I actually think that that's like the real reason why I've been able to, persevere through some of the ups and downs that this industry will give you, man, because like there's a very dark side to boxing, like people talk about it all the time. And I've seen some of that stuff, and I've come through it. And I love being really want to do, they can do.
Well, that thing will preach itself. But why don't we unpack some of this a little bit? I'd like to know, what would you say has been your most teachable moment in this journey? Some space where you were just like, boy, that's a lesson I've learned, and I don't want to learn it again. And then what would you say has probably been maybe your big highlight, your biggest highlight thus far?
The thing that I would say has been like my most teachable moment is if it ain't in the contract, it ain't real. If it's not in that contract, it's not real, man. Everybody's got to do what they have to do for themselves. And fighters have families, managers have families, promoters have families. And people will promise you things and they'll say something. But if it's not in that black and white, then it means little to nothing. And you know that as an attorney to be true. The caveat to that is that in the boxing industry, some people live by their word more than they live by a contract. And I know that those two things don't really coexist. But if you work in my industry or industry that's like similar, then you kind of know where you have to thread that needle. Like if you put a contract in front of certain people, they shy away from it. You can never do business with them. But if they shake your hand, they tell you like, you're my guy, you're going to represent me. And I'm going to always give you 10%. Then to a certain degree, like they will honor that. So there's that.
Two sides of the same coin there. That's a tough one. As an attorney, I got to say, don't shake hands on a deal. Get it in writing, even if it's even if it's not an extensive contract. You can write a contract yourself, right? And it's better than nothing. I'll just give you advice.
And then you asked me another question that I really want to answer is what has been my highlight moment. And I remember my highlight moment was this, man. I was working with this young man that I'm promoting. And in boxing, before you get a promoter, you, for the most part, have to pay for your own fights, right? Now, to pay for a fight could be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, you know. So you have to have some type of like real skin in the game. And I remember this kid, I just signed him recently, was going over the contract with him, and he saw what his minimum payments were going to be, right? And I'm not going to disclose the numbers, but when I put the contracts and I was going over his minimums, he thought that because he was so in the repetitious phase of paying for his own fights, he thought that I was telling him that he had to pay for a certain number of fights. He didn't understand the nature of the relationship. And he said, Britton, you know, like, I was really excited about this meeting. He's like, I sold all my shoes. I sold all my clothes. I sold my Xbox. I live at home with my grandmother. My parents think that, you know, like I'm pursuing the wrong careers. Like, I just can't afford to pay for these fights anymore. And I said, no, this is the number you're going to be getting paid. And he started crying, and he gave me a hug, and he was just like, man, like he's like, I'm not that educated, so I didn't understand that's what you were saying to me. But he's like, you have no idea that you just changed my life. And he's like, I'm going to fight as hard as I can for you. And he's like, we're going to be world champions together. And so, like, for me, like, I've always want like those little moments right there, man, like being able to see the emotion come over him when he realized, oh no, like, you're not taking from me, you're actually adding value to me, was that was a moment I'll never forget.
Yeah, that's a hell of a highlight. I got to tell you, that's pretty impressive. I got to ask, there's two questions. I've got to ask one question, but I'm going to ask two. You may have answered this a little bit already. What is your counsel, maybe to your younger self, or to somebody who maybe is interested in doing similar things to what you're doing? What would you say? Is your counsel to your younger self?
These people aren't smarter than you. I went through a long stretch where, you know, you meet people who have been in the game for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever. And just because they've been in it for so long, you think that they know more than you. And in some ways they do. But here's the thing, is me being younger, I'm looking at the sport with a fresh set of eyes. And I'm looking at the sport from a more social media or storytelling angle, as where when you find someone that's been in the thing doing it for 30, 40 years, they have a model that works for them, right? And they might not pay attention to the value that you're bringing or the ideas that you're bringing. And so the first thing I would say is, you know, these people aren't smarter than you. I would tell myself not to give up, and I would celebrate myself more, because in retrospect, you know, I end up right where I want to be. But I took a lot of big swings, and I took a lot of risk. And when a lot of my friends were like thriving in their careers, maybe, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I was putting in like work, very serious work, for this thing that I didn't know was going to pay off. But again, that passion really drove me to stay focused and stay the path. And I think that that's always something that should be celebrated.
Absolutely. That's well said. I think celebrating your wins is so critical. And it's been one of our, sort of wellness checks in the past, is being able to celebrate those big wins. And I think it's also tough. It can be tough, we went to a place like Howard University. Jessica, she went to Georgetown. When you're surrounded by people who are doing great, and you're grinding and hustling, it can be tough to celebrate your wins. But it also can be a little bit intimidating because, you know, as I've discussed before in previous episodes, some of the people that we know are really doing some really major things. They're running companies. They're doing some major things. And so when your time hasn't come yet, and that's a message in itself, but when your time hasn't come yet, it can be tough to persevere and to celebrate the small wins. And so I think you're spot on about making that a priority. All right, my last question, and I'm going to let you go. I know you got a busy schedule. I want to know. This is just for my own enjoyment here. I want to know who you think is the most exciting boxer in the game right now. Not just in overtime, but just at the lay of the land. Who's the most exciting boxer? Maybe I'll just leave it there. Who's your most exciting boxer? I'm going to share mine too. I can go first if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
You want me to go first? Okay. So I'm super excited about Abdullah Mason.
Mhm.
This young kid, he's, what is he, 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
He's a young kid. I forget where he's from, too. I want to say he's like out of
Cleveland.
Baltimore or Philly. Where'd you say?
Cleveland.
He's out of Cleveland. Okay, so got that all wrong. But he's out of Cleveland. He's an exciting boxer. He's a big power puncher. He's fast. I think he's got a real bright future, and I'm excited to see him fight more.
Yeah. I love that answer. And I can tell that you really watch the sport and you're a really fan. You're a real fan of the sport if you know Abdullah. But Abdullah is a monster. He's a beast.
Yeah,
Um,
he is.
and the reason why I'm smiling is because it's always so difficult. It's always so difficult for me to pick one fighter in any given category. Uh, but I'll give you, I'll give you two.
Okay.
Abdullah's, he's obviously is. I know Abdullah, so he sees this, he's gonna be like, "You got to say me." But listen,
Right.
I'm really excited about this kid, Nathan Lugo. Nathan Lugo just had his pro debut on an OTX card on one my last fight, April 19th. And this kid's coming out of the amateurs. He had a decorated amateur career. And his manager hit me up and was like, Britton, your arena's in Atlanta. This kid is from Georgia. I'm telling you, if you put him on your card, you will not regret it. Um, Put him on the card, and he probably brought about 200 people to the arena, all wearing his logo on their t-shirt, his name on the back. They're a rowdy crowd. They love boxing. And when this kid fought, when he actually came out, you would have thought that they were announcing Mike Tyson. Like the arena was so loud, electricity was flowing through the building. And I mean, he knocked his opponent out in 90 seconds.
Wow.
And was, ready for more. So I gotta say, like, I always love like when I see that spark in a young talent like that, because I know what his trajectory could be. And then the second one, I'm gonna actually give a unconventional answer. The second one is this kid named Ben Whitaker. He fights based in the UK, but he's been training in the US for a little while. And I really love Ben because he brings like a flair and he brings an excitement. He's dancing, he's jiggy, he's having fun. And boxing is such a tense sport. And you see a lot of people come in really intense and they're angry. And this dude is just in there, he's flowing and he's dancing on his opponents. And you can tell he's really, really enjoying the moment. And rarely do you get to see a fighter with that level of, levity when they're boxing. So I love that because he's truly like water. It's like watching poetry.
That's a beautiful thing. My coach would always tell us boxing is a dance. You got to relax, get out here and dance and flow. And so that's good. So I'm taking those names down. I'm going to be taking a look at these fighters. I can't wait to see them. Before I let you go, you've got a couple of fights upcoming. Can you tell us about that? And how do we find you? How do we find Overtime Boxing? How do we get into the mix and follow what you got going on?
Yeah, for sure. You can follow me at Britton Hardin, my first and last name on Instagram. You can follow Overtime Boxing at Overtime Boxing on Instagram. Our next fight is going to be May 31st at the Red Owl Boxing Facility in Houston, Texas. It's going to be lit. It's a facility that's built for boxing. It's going to be a nice, tight knit, crowd there. A bunch of Houston-based fighters are going to be on the card. Fighters that I've signed are going to be headlining. Our next card after that is going to be June 28th back at the OT Arena. That's home. And then we're going to do a card July, I want to say 12th at the OT Arena in Atlanta as well. So you can watch our shows on DAZN. You can also watch them on our social media page. We have open distribution this year, which is revolutionary for the sport. traditionally you're only watching on ESPN or DAZN or Showtime. Well, we've opened up the distribution model because what Overtime specializes in is galvanizing and bringing that audience to whatever sport it is that we have chosen we're going to specialize in. So you can watch it on DAZN if you have a subscription, or you can watch it on our Instagram live page.
I love that. It's a beautiful thing, man. I am just so impressed by the work that you're doing and excited to see where you're going. And I'm planning to come to one of these fights. Maybe I'll pull up to Houston or maybe Atlanta, maybe both. I'm trying to see what it do and get my face in the place. Are you still in boxing shape, man? Can you get in the ring a little bit?
Come on, man. That's what I look like. Yeah, of course. Okay. I'm going to box right after this interview, man. This is how I stay sane, you know. And then also, it gives me a lot of credibility when I walk in the gym and the fighters are like, "Wait a second, aren't you a promoter?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but we can go a few rounds."
All that, yeah. Well, let me know. I'm gonna be in touch with you. I might try to get in the ring with you a little bit. Cool. No headshots, only body shots. I got to protect my brain.
We're gonna learn. We're gonna
All right. Fun. Good, man. Thank you so much, Britton. I can't tell you how much it means to sit down and chat with you. I wish you all the best, and maybe you'll come back and promote one of your shows, bring some of your fighters on. We'd love to get a chance to talk with them one day.
Absolutely, brother. Whenever you want.
All right, friends, hang tight. We'll be right back with, what do we got next? Oh, we got our, it's not wellness check. What is it? What we got next, Margaret? It's our motivational moment, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm so excited. I get excited talking about boxing. I done lost my way. I don't know. I could talk to Britton all day. Good brother. But anyway, let's get back on track here. It's our motivational moment. And our motivational moment today is you'll never meet a hater who's doing better than you. Okay? Not ever. Every hater is not doing better than you. That's why they hate. So don't worry about what the haters say. Don't let that bother you. Don't let that get under your skin. Don't let them get you off course. All right? Keep doing your thing. Stay the course. Tough times, good times, bad times, they're going to come. They will go. And you know who's always going to be there in the background hating? A hater who's not doing better than you, okay? So keep doing your thing, friend. That's your motivational moment. We'll be right back to wrap things up. All right, friends. My goodness. It is a wrap. We've done it again. This has been season 3, episode 6. And boy, I got to tell you, it's probably one of my favorite episodes. They just keep getting better. I hope you guys agree. I'm having such a good time doing this show. I'm so grateful to be back in the mix with you. I want to thank our guests, Jessica Ornsby and Britton Hardin, for spending some time with us. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Just like any voyage, it's just a little bit more fun if you can bring a friend or two along. Tell a friend. Get in the mix with us. Lawyers is brought to you by Apex, where aptitude meets excellence. Empowered by the Green Law Firm, your one-stop shop for everything real estate in Tennessee and Mississippi. Our Voyage Vibe again today is brought to us by Mr. Kirk Smith. This is Prodigal Son. This is a jam. It's a vibe. I'm feeling it. Let me know what you think. Follow me on Instagram at BWallyESQ. Email your questions, your legal questions, and your feedback to lawyers at apexgroupdc.com. And guess what? We are now on TikTok. It took a few minutes to load it up, but we're working through some TikTok, trying to get out on TikTok as well. That's going to be Lawyers to Podcast, certainly at Lawyers to Podcast. We're also on Instagram, Lawyers to Podcast. We are out here doing the work with you, and we're grateful that you're in the mix with us. Thanks for joining us, friends. Until next time, I want you to be well. Thank you so much.